All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Katie T. Larson. And as we continue to wait for the rest of the group, I just want to welcome you to get into your body and to allow whatever you've just finished doing to exit through a little bit of motion, movement. You can just find whatever you need to do to feel embodied. Maybe you are live with me in Hong Kong and it's after lunch, or you're watching a recording and you've just finished a cup of coffee. But just go ahead and find a little space and know that we will be moving in this session. And we will be doing some of that shaking. So just find an area that you feel comfortable and know that we are going to begin shortly. Embodiment practices for the highly sensitive. Like I mentioned, my name is Dr. Katie T. Larson. I am a coach and I'm an author and I'm a growth and development expert who works with highly sensitive people. I myself am a highly sensitive person and an empath, and so learning to really trust my body and have self-compassionate embodiment practices has been a really large part of my journey. I think, let's move me out of the way here. I think that if this was occurring about 5 years ago, I would not have been here. I was definitely disembodied, like many of us. And primarily for me, it was because I was just finishing my PhD, as you can see in my nice mortarboard photo. And when you are every single day on a computer and you're in your mind, soon you become just a container for a walking mind. I was constantly in my head. I was constantly thinking about how I was going to make connections. And in many ways, it was very beautiful to live in such a magical place inside of my head. But I started to notice that I didn't even know who I was anymore. I didn't do the things that I used to enjoy. I didn't do any sports, any yoga, any running, any swimming. I just basically became a walking mind. And I wasn't always this way. Of course, like all of us, I was born embodied. As a kid, I was constantly dancing, swimming, climbing trees, anything that was free movement. I would love just being in my body, just trusting how it wanted to go. But at around age 12, I began to experience what I think many of us have, which is a sense of that my body was betraying me, especially when it was put on the spot. And especially if I had to do any kind of performance athletically. And I want to share the actual story because it's very comical and humorous in one hand, but it also is something when I did a lot of work to try to decide where my trauma of not trusting my body was coming from. It was this story. So I was 12 years old and I was raised in the United States outside of Chicago. And we were in PE class and learning how to play soccer or football. And our teacher decided that all you had to do for this exercise was put out several different cones, little orange cones, and then dribble the soccer ball through the cones and then dribble the soccer ball back. And for me, I felt like I could do something that simple, but historically, I was really clumsy. I would tell my leg to do one thing and it would do the opposite thing. But I felt like I could handle this. And so when it was my turn to dribble the ball, I kicked the ball through one of the cones and then it went all the way to the end of the gymnasium. And the teacher made me go and get the ball again. Bring it back, Katie, bring it back. Brought it back, and he was trying to teach me a lesson of persistence. And so he made me start again on the line, and I kicked the ball again. And I told my leg to do something, but it did it harder than I told it to do, and the ball went to the other end of the gym. And this is when the class is starting to pay attention to me, and all of us remember adolescence, where you feel like there's a microscope on you. And this is when the class starts to pay attention that Katie can't kick, Katie can't do this. And so the teacher thinks he's going to make an example of me to show how you need to have persistence and hard work. So he says, right, Katie, get the ball and do it again. So I bring it back for a third time, start at the line, kick the ball. Again, it goes to the end of the gym. Now this is where I almost have an out-of-body memory for the rest of this experience. And it makes a lot of sense that my memory is third person, because that part of the experience is when I became disembodied. Because again, now the whole class is watching me and they're screaming, Katie, come on, kick the ball, but not in an encouraging way, but in a mocking and bullying way. That's just go, you suck, you're terrible, just bring it back. And I kept bringing it back to the line, starting again, and it would not go in the way that it was meant to go in my mind. And I wasn't able to connect with my body and get the ball to do what it was meant to do. And instead of trying to just focus and actually be embodied and do it, I became completely disembodied. I started floating above myself, and I was unable to do the task. And I kept looking at the gym teacher like, come on, like, give me a break here. You can see I'm failing. And he didn't catch my message and continuously tried to make me do this over and over again to the screaming cries of my peers. And when I started my adult embodiment work and I embodied the trauma that led me to disconnect, this was the origin of my disembodiment, was feeling like everyone was watching me and I had no control over the thing that was mine to begin with, my own body. And so we have these micro traumas that kind of add up. And as a highly sensitive person, we feel things very deeply and strongly. And so that memory, as I explain it to you now, I get sweaty palms, I get a little bit flush in my chest, and I embody that same sensation as it still is living memory inside of me. And I wanted to have a session about embodiment practices for the highly sensitive, because we tend to have more sensitive nervous systems. So the fact that I'm feeling all of this as I recall this memory for you is a sign of being highly sensitive. And another sign of being highly sensitive is when we are in more stimulating environments, our senses heighten quite a bit. And for me personally, I grew up in a very stable environment in a suburb outside of Chicago, in a very calm, serene, natural area with a lake. And so my nervous system didn't need to respond to my environment because it didn't change very often. But once I grew up and to be an adult and I left the US, I started to move into different cities all around the world that had a lot more stimulation, noises, smells, unfamiliar sounds that would jar me. And when my senses would heighten, I became disembodied again, because to be living inside of a highly sensitive body, when your senses heighten, you can enjoy them up until a point. And then once you've hit that point, you become over-aroused and overstimulated. And this is the aspect of being highly sensitive that so many of us find very challenging. So I've mentioned this comment, highly sensitive person, several times now. And this session is for highly sensitive people, or sensitive people in general, or people who love a highly sensitive person, so you can understand us a little bit more. I'm not going to go too much into details about the definition of a highly sensitive person, but I want to introduce you to someone who can. This is Dr. Elaine Aron. She is the premier researcher in highly sensitivity, and she originally published a book called The Highly Sensitive Person, which is a must-read for anyone. And in her research, she came up with several different descriptors of the breakdown of how many of us exist in the population, we're 15 to 20%. So 1 in 5 of us are highly sensitive. And it's genetic. So chances are, if one of your parents is highly sensitive, perhaps one of your aunts and uncles or cousins shows these same sensitivity traits. And we're not all introverts. I myself I'm actually an extrovert. 30% of us are extroverts and 70% of us are introverts. And so when she originally began researching this, she thought it was mostly an introverted trait. But as she began to do research, she noticed that there's actually several people that are extroverts and enjoy the company of others and get energy from others. But as you'll see in a moment, they get overstimulated easily. And it's equally distributed amongst the genders. So 50% men and 50% women. And it can be easier to recognize in women, but chances are that's because we're more comfortable expressing our sensitivity. So I want to welcome especially the sensitive men that are in the audience today, because this is a really helpful tool to learn embodiment practices that perhaps some of the women might be learning in women's circles or yoga classes, or meditation groups. And I want to make sure that both genders are feeling represented in the embodiment practices today. Everybody loves an acronym, and as I share this acronym, I want you to feel comfortable using the chat box to share which letter you resonate with more. Maybe there's more than one. I'm all for. So her acronym, Dr. Elaine Aron, she uses DOES, D-O-E-S, to describe what a highly sensitive person's cluster of traits tend to look like. D stands for we're deep processors. Not only are we able to really think philosophically, deeply, categorically, but we can think of novel solutions when there's problems, and we can create really helpful solutions when people need them. We also are quick-witted because we're deep processors. We can be sarcastic, sometimes we're quite cynical, but that's because we actually understand the complexities and the several different layers to reality around us, but also the different arguments. We don't often take sides, black and white. We see the layers, we see shades of gray. To be honest, we see technicolor. We do get overstimulated easily. So there's a pro to this. These are not all challenges. They're just neutral traits that tend to show themselves in different circumstances, either positively or negatively, depending on how the circumstance is presenting. So when we are attracted to stimulus, we love to put ourselves in situations where we are going to see those great sights and sounds, and we are going to do things new, like festivals and carnivals, and we enjoy going to these things. Our curiosity tends to be high, but once we get there, we tend to overstimulate quickly. There's a very narrow peak arousal point for highly sensitive people where we are attracted to stimulus, but once we have too much of it, we become overstimulated and over-aroused. We want to leave quickly, or we want to have a break. And this is why a lot of extroverts take a long time to discover that they're highly sensitive, because they love to be in groups of people, but then suddenly all of the energy in the group of people is just too much. They've become overstimulated. That's O. E stands for we are emotional and empathic. So we have a rich inner world as highly sensitive people. We feel a very wide gamut of emotions, and many of us are quite emotionally literate in the sense that we can tell you, we can discern between the tangled ball of emotions that you get when you start a new job. We know that we're excited and nervous and sad and hopeful and optimistic all in one. And we know that that can occur. One minute we feel one way and the next minute we feel the next, and we're very aware. We're so aware of our emotions, it feels banal and boring to us sometimes to have such a wide range of emotions. And we're empathic, meaning we can feel other people's emotions and other people's energies, and not only people, but places and things. Sometimes we associate certain places with colors or vibrations, or we can even feel, and when we walk into a room, the energy, if it has good vibes or bad vibes. And this is part of our E, being empathic. And as you can imagine, sometimes both of those can be quite exhausting. They're very exciting and they make us do things well. We're great at being servers and caretakers because we can anticipate the needs of others through our empathy. Other times we're unable to turn it off and we can really become overwhelmed, which is part of the practices that we're going to work on today. And then S in does stands for we are sensitive to subtleties, meaning we can pick up on many times invisible energies or we're very perceptive of when we walk in a room. Many of us have photographic memory. We can recall where everything is in the room. We know where everything is in the refrigerator. The ketchup is behind the milk. And we have a sensation of being able to perceive the subtle details, not just in our visual perception, but the mood of the bus driver, or the feeling of if it's going to rain, even if there's no signs of the rain coming, or perhaps there's a change in air pressure. We're very sensitive to these subtleties. And for many of us, when we first learn or discover that we're highly sensitive, suddenly we have an aha moment when we see S, because we're like, my whole life I thought I was just strange or crazy or weird that I picked up on these things. Actually, it's part of the aspect of being highly sensitive that you can pick up on things that other people completely miss. So DOES is the acronym, and Dr. Elaine Aron is the researcher who, amongst many others, has pioneered the field of studying highly sensitive. I myself am also writing a book at the moment, researching the journey of when you discover you're a highly sensitive person as an adult, like myself, how that integration of that knowledge evolves. And so what we're going to do is look at how your strengths and challenges can lead to the disembodiment that I spoke about earlier. Because highly sensitive people, some of the strengths that we have distance us from our body. For example, we're deep processors, so we really love playing with our mind. For many of us, our entry point into the world is through our mind. We love philosophizing, we love imagining, we love daydreaming, we love being in our mind and thinking things through. We are very good planners and designers and creatives, and we use our mind often to get into that depth. And so, as a result of being in our mind, it's very easy for us to get disembodied. That is a strength of ours, but if we rely too heavily on our strength, again, we're out of our body completely. Another strength of ours is that we relate with our emotions really strongly, but sometimes we miss where they live in our bodies and we disconnect from symptoms or pathologies even that have been created as a result of our emotional strength of feeling. So when we do the exercise, can't think of the word. See, I'm in my mind too much. When we do the exercise for embodiment and for embodying the feelings, we really want to know where our emotions live. Because for many of us, if we're chronic worriers, we'll feel it in our shoulders. Or if we have a lot of anxiety, we'll feel it heavy in our chest. So sometimes we can feel emotions strongly, but we're not picking up on the clues of where they live in our body. Other ways that we can be disembodied tend to do more with our challenges as highly sensitive people. And one of the things is our heightened senses gives us is a sensation of feeling unsafe. Our nervous system is more active than the other 80% of the population. So when we are out in the world, we can get startled very easily, and it triggers our nervous system, and our fight or flight activates, and it's more so than the average person. And so we can feel very threatened living in our body, and we choose unconsciously to disembody in order to avoid feeling that sensation of being threatened. And of course, many of us highly sensitives, just like non-sensitives, we don't trust our body because we don't associate pleasant or pleasurable memories with our body. We have disconnected from it for a variety of reasons, or we've experienced trauma in our bodies where we now associate anytime we're in our somatic knowing, it brings us back to a time that we've been violated. or we've experienced trauma. And so all of these experiences have led towards a disembodied life as a highly sensitive person. And so what our goal is today is we're going to return to our bodies as a highly sensitive person. We're going to do that in 3 practices. And the first is we're going to enhance pleasure. Because as we talked before about, we have an ability to feel very strongly all of our senses when they're heightened. We want to amplify the pleasure of those felt senses so we can balance out our nervous system and remind it that it doesn't always need to feel threat when our senses are heightened. That's the first activity. And the second practice is we're going to feel the feelings and allow ourselves to feel them fully in our body. And for many highly sensitives, we've been encouraged throughout our life to toughen up, get a thicker skin. Don't worry so much. Don't feel so much. Don't be so sensitive. Stop crying. And although many of those may be well intentioned, and sometimes they're not, but many times it's coming from a parent or a loved one who isn't sensitive, trying to toughen us up. They may have turned off our ability to fully feel. And so we're going to open back up our ability to somatically sense where our emotions live in our body so that we can make the connection between discomfort, displeasure, or just emotions in general of where they're living. And then the third practice is we're going to practice some healthy boundaries because, as I mentioned before, we're empathic and often we pick up on things that are not ours. And so in order to understand what energies are ours and what are not, we need to be able to ask our body, is this mine? And trust the answer yes or no. So we're going to trust our body's yeses and nos so we can now use our body as a source of wisdom that it is deep inside. So you can write in the chat box which practice you may be looking forward to more, or all 3, that's fine. And we are going to be moving. So if you haven't already found a space for yourself, go ahead and do so now. And I am going to be playing some music throughout the practices. And so the playlist that I'm going to be playing is on Spotify that you can find later if you like one of the songs. And it's just under my name, Katie T. Larson, and it's called Embodiment. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Just show you me. And what I'm going to do is I want you to find a space on the ground where you can get into hands and knees. Because what we're going to do to begin is we're going to amplify some pleasure that's already living inside of our bodies. And if you don't feel like you have anything that's feeling very pleasurable at this moment inside of your body, then we're going to amplify the lack of pain. Maybe it's somewhere really simple. But the reason I want you to be on your hands and knees is because when you sit or stand, you're prioritizing your head or your root chakra. And instead of doing either prioritizing on either spectrum, what we're going to do is we're going to put all of our chakras in an equal plane so that when we begin to move and we begin to feel into the energy can easily go back and forth, and it's not concentrated only in our head, as we know we can so easily do. So we're on our hands and knees. I'm just going to adjust the camera here. So we're on our hands and knees now. And I think it's easier if I go like this. See all these fun technical things when you're doing something on technology. I'm going to play a song, and I'd like you on your hands and knees now, as I continue to find the song, to allow yourself to move in the way that your body needs to move. If you want to stretch, you can stretch. If you want to more dance. You'll hear it's going to be somewhat of an upbeat song soon, or a little bit faster of a tempo in a little while. If you want to move relatively still, maybe that's all you need today, is just to kind of breathe. You can do that as well. So we're going to start in almost like a cat-cow yoga position. And what I want you to do is, as you start to move, to just identify if there's an area in your body that is more pleasurable when you move. Oh, there's mine. Where it just feels good, like maybe it's a stretch, maybe you have some tiredness in your hips or your shoulders. Yeah, mine's my hips today. And I want you now, as the music continues, to just allow that pleasurable sensation to amplify. If you don't feel a pleasurable sensation yet, maybe you can just find somewhere that has an absence of pain. So maybe it's something as simple as your small toe, or your finger, or an internal organ. But I want you to just allow the music and your trust of the movement to amplify any sensations of pleasure, and really allow that to permeate your cells. Let's say mine is in my hips, so I want to just lean into that over and over again, and just notice the sensation that it gives me as I continuously do that. And then if you've localized a pleasurable feeling in your body, I just want you now to see if you can extend that feeling. If it's in your hips, can you get it up into your chest? If it's in your little toe, can you get it to the rest of your foot? And just continue to move in a way that allows you to feel the sensation grow and amplify into the rest of your body. And I'm just going to quietly move along with you, but I want you to feel it for the rest of the song. Just giving our bodies what they need, trusting that free movement and the felt sensation of actual embodiment can be pleasurable, but it can also exist at the same time as pain. So I know I have a little headache at the moment. And so if you also have a headache, or if you have any other aches and pains, then you might feel it's difficult to do something pleasurable and painful at the same time. But knowing that you can actually try to amplify the pleasure, it doesn't minimize the pain always, but it amplifies the pleasure enough that you can just lean into that more. And that is a practice of just coming home into the good sensations of being in your body and being embodied as a highly sensitive person. And these can be done with other senses. For example, smell for me. I literally would stop and smell the roses. Anytime there is a free smell, I will walk into a bakery and just take a real long whiff. Or if there's like I really like the smell of vinyl. And so we have a hardware store by us that has rolls and rolls of these plastic vinyl tablecloths. And I'm that weird person that will go in and I'll just like give it a good sniff, and allowing what could look really funny and weird from the outside at times, to just really allow that sensation to come into your body and watch where it lights you up, because the same heightened sense of smell will also drive you crazy if it's a smell that's unpleasant, and it tends to go in a different area of your body. And so being able to have that body somatic memory of the pleasant smells, sometimes we're able to biohack when we're experiencing something that is not as pleasant. We can remember the sensations that were in our body before when we were in the pleasurable sensation and try to overcome them. So this is enhancing the pleasure of our felt sensations. If you enjoy good music, or if you enjoy nice sounds, take the time. I love every morning to go to a river and I just sit there and quietly listen to the running water. And I make sure I do that as much as I can. Or I love the sensation of sunlight on my skin. And so I'll make sure to sit in the window and feel the sunlight on my skin for just 2 minutes. But just that alone sometimes is enough to give me the recharge and amplify the felt sensations of the positive, pleasurable sensations of being highly sensitive. Now we're going to go to another activity, but I'm going to turn off my camera because we're going to be doing a guided meditation. So I want you to find an area that is comfortable. You don't have to lie down. You can be sitting if you like, but the second activity that we're going to do is we're going to feel our feelings strongly and allow them to flow through us and recognize where they live in our bodies. So if you're not already in a comfortable place, I want you to make sure you've done that now. Maybe you need a water break. But as highly sensitive people, we feel so strongly. And sometimes we can identify either too intensely with our emotions, or we've been conditioned out of identifying with them and we're afraid of them. And we don't want to get into them anymore. And I'd have to say, I currently have a 2.5-year-old toddler, and I think feelings are like toddlers. They want your attention, and they want it so much that if you don't give it to them, they tend to act out. So paying attention to your feelings can be the equivalent of paying attention to a toddler. You do not need to make the toddler the boss of you, but giving it the attention it wants will often allow it to pass and flow through you. So when we feel each emotion, I want you to feel the sensation of where your emotion lives in your body. And we will just continue. We're going to do 5 emotions, and they're not all positive. But I would like you to create an energy signature. So when we call up these feelings, I want you to feel where they live in your body. And for some of us, we don't have somatic memory or muscle memory very strongly developed yet. We're still learning this science. But what we want to do then is I want you to give it another identifier, like a color or a shape or a name, or even give it a character, avatar. As you feel the somatic response in your body, then you can pair it with that color, with that sound or shape, so that you recognize, I'm worrying again, next time you feel this feeling. So the first thing we're going to do is feel the sensations of the feeling worry. I want you to worry. Really allow your body see where that sensation of worry lives. Is it in your knees, your feet, maybe in your shoulders? Is it warm? What's the temperature? Is it cool? Is there a sensation or a color or a sound that is associated with it? Where does worry live in your body? And it's just coming in for tea. You're offering it in for tea. You're not going to live with it. It's just going to come in, live in your body for a moment, and then it's going to pass after the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Just remember, maybe in your memory now, give it 2 or 3 words that you can remember, or images that you can remember, or sensations of where does worry live in your body. And take a deep breath. And now we're going to move into anxiety. And we're going to embody this, although it's discomfort for many of us. Perhaps you've been anxious a lot this year. It's very uncertain, 2020. You can call it up by maybe remembering the anxious time you felt. I just want you to notice the sensations that arise in your body when you feel anxious. Is it warm or cool? Is it on the top, the bottom of your body? Is it throughout? Is it internal? Is it tense? Is it loose? Just feel the sensation. Try to associate it with another sense, like a color or a name, at the same time you feel it in your body. And this is your brand of anxiety. So later, when you feel someone else's anxiety, you can recognize what yours feels like versus what someone else's feels like, and know if it's yours or not. And on the count of 3, we're just going to release anxiety. 1, 2, 3. Take a deep breath. Just remember maybe 1 or 2 words or sensations or colors that give you the memory of when you feel anxiety, what that feels like in your body. And next, we're going to embody sadness. I'm starting with the less comfortable emotions first. Oh, I can feel it right away. Sadness. Where does it live in your body? What are the sensations? Do you feel heavy, light, warm, cool, empty, full? What color does it bring? Just allow yourself to experience sadness. Maybe it lives in your eyes and you're crying. Just allow it. And then associate something else with the feeling. And on the count of 3, we're going to say goodbye to sadness. 1, 2, 3. Now, just think of 1 or 2 things that remind you of sadness, so that when you are feeling someone else's sadness, you can decide if it's yours or theirs. You have a specific energy signature for each emotion. and it lives in our bodies, and you can feel it out of recall now. Now we're going to amplify the emotions to be a little bit more positive, and we're going to go into anticipation. Anticipation. I had a lot of anticipation this morning to get prepared for the conference. So where does it live in your body? Anticipation. Compare it to the previous ones. Does it feel lighter? Feel it in your feet, in your head? Is it warm, cool? What's this? The shape of it? Mine's always prickly. Just associate another color or word or character with anticipation. Allow yourself to remember that feeling, because on the count of 3, we're going to say goodbye to anticipation. 1, 2, 3. And the last feeling we'll embody after we allow anticipation to flow through us is joy. And you're going to feel joy, call it up. Maybe it's been a while since you felt joyful, or maybe you felt it earlier today, and you can just easily call it up. Feel it in your body. Is it light, heavy, soft, rough, tingly, smooth? Is there a color? Mine is yellow. Mine is orange and yellow today. It's light and smooth, buttery. Maybe I'm hungry. Just allow joy to feel through your body. Does it light up? How does it compare to the other sensations? Just allow it to amplify in your cells. Give it a color, give it a shape. And as much as I hate to say goodbye to joy, we're going to allow joy to just flow out of our bodies like a wave on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. I want you to take a deep breath. And in a moment, you're going to find a space where you can stand up. And I'm going to turn the camera on in a moment, but after you've stood up, we're going to allow these emotions to get in motion. Because some of us, as much as we tried to let these emotions flow through our bodies, we notice that there's 1 or 2 or more that are trapped. And they just kind of live in the emotional, subtle bodies that are around us. And they haven't quite escaped our body yet. And this can be why a lot of us try to avoid feeling feelings, because we don't have them flow as easily through us. It's like they are in a dam and they don't flow like a river. They flow like a river and then they get stuck. So when emotions get stuck, it's very important for our body to get in motion, literally, to let it out. And you can do this when you're on your own in any way you like. This can be running or stretching or dancing. I actually think the more free movement, the better, in the sense that don't come up with a regimen, but allow your body to just let out the emotions that are stuck. And so the way that we're going to do this is through shaking. So I'm going to turn back our camera on, and I'm going to play a music that's going to be perfect for shaking. All right, so let's see if we can follow me here. And so if you haven't already stood up, we're going to start to shake out any of the emotions that are stuck. I always start with my hands, but you can just do what feels best for you, where you're literally shaking the emotions off. You can move You can actually brush it off, but we're allowing the emotions out and bringing them back to the earth, because that dense energy of feelings, it's meant to flow through us, but if it doesn't, you can add it through a little shaking. I'm gonna now add my legs. Told you we'd be shaking. Go ahead. If anybody's family's watching you, you can just show them, oh, it's part of my conference. And just shake your legs. Maybe you want to shake your tail like a puppy. And you're just moving the emotions out of your body, getting them all out and sending them back to the earth. Almost done. Just notice a difference. If you're more of a visual person, maybe you're visualizing them sloughing off of you. Maybe you just feel them energetically leave you, dropping. You're sending them back to the earth. You don't even need to send them back to where they came from. You're just allowing them to flow off. All right. So now we're going to continue by finding a nice space. No more shaking. Some of us need to catch our breath. We're going to find a nice space. And I'm going to take you into an exercise about trusting your body. Because our body never lies. Our body never lies. And some of us as empaths, we accidentally pick up on somebody else's feelings sometimes. And what we want to learn as a highly sensitive person is whether or not this is ours. If this is our energy or someone else's energy. That's one aspect to this embodiment practice. And then the other aspect of this embodiment practice is allowing ourselves to trust our body when we ask it a question, because it is the true litmus test of how we honestly feel about something. And so we're going to just notice the difference in our bodies from yes to no, and make it such a somatic memory that we can easily identify it for mundane choices like lunch and important choices like life. Do I move? These huge life choices. So the first way we're going to do this is just, again, get comfortable. And what I'd like you to do is the most simple, is I want you to choose a name that is not your own. You can use my name if you want, Dr. Katie Larson, or Joe, or Sam. But choose a name that is not your own. I want you to tell your body, my name is Joe. My name is Joe. And when I feel that, I feel personally like a stop. Like right here, actually. My name is Joe. I feel a stop. I also feel a little bit tight in my shoulders. So where is it in yours when you tell your body an untrue statement, a no? Just notice again. Tell yourself that fake name. This is the easiest lie we can tell ourselves. Yeah, mine is just like this. Now I want you to tell your body your name. We love to hear our names. It's like the best word ever to us is our names. So you're going to say to yourself, my name is Katie. You go to your day list. My name is Katie. And what does that feel like in your body? Just notice the somatic sensations. Mine feels like an opening flower when I say that. And I'm loose in my shoulders. It's like open. So with my lie, it's like this and shut. But when I say the truth or yes, it's open and open. So you're telling yourself your name, the truth. Oops. And what we want, maybe I'll do this just quiet, is now I want you to just focus solely on yes and no. So we had our name and not our name and our name, but now let's just only feel into what does it feel like in your body? Yes. And just take a moment now. Yes. Where is that? What does it feel like? Yes. 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 My legs feel lighter. Yes. I feel light, jumpy. Yes. I feel almost like a sensation of warmth behind my ears. Yes. So just trust your yes. Just notice the way that it feels. And now we're going to do no. And notice the difference. No. 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 I feel a furrow in my brow. I feel tense here. I feel heavy in my legs. I feel tense in my neck. No. And then just remember that sensation of your body when it tells you no. Now, these are our energy signatures of yes and no that are ours. You are not going to have the same as I, and so on and so forth. But your body doesn't lie. And so now we're going to take advantage of that and ask it some questions that we've needed to know answers to. So I'm just going to bring up the questions. I'll bring a little music back, and I want you to ask your body some of the things that you've been needing to know. It could be as simple as, what should I eat for lunch? Should I have that leftover salmon in the fridge? Or I actually recommend doing those first. Do those mundane questions first. And then move on to something a little bit more relevant and important and energetically valuable to you right now. So just take a moment. Just a few more moments. Allow yourself now the important questions, the ones burning. Trust your answers. And then now that you've established your yes and no, and now that you've established your yes and no, I want you to consider when and how you're able to use this. When will you need to ask your body how you really feel about something? Perhaps you've been asked to join a social function and you don't want to go, or you don't know if you want to go. You ask your body. Or if something important is happening and you have already established the facts about the matter, ask yourself, ask your body each fact and how you feel about each fact, and your body will tell you and it won't lie. And it doesn't mean you necessarily have to do what the body wants you to do, but the body will be honest about its reaction to whether or not you're going to do that. I know personally, I sometimes will ask my body, like, should I go climb that boulder over there? And it'll be like, no, no, don't do that. But then I'm like, I'm feeling adventurous today. I'm going to try it. And then I'll try to climb the boulder and I'll slip and I'll fall and it'll be really hard and it won't be as enjoyable. But somehow I'll do it in the end and then I'll be proud of myself. But my body did tell me the truth, like, you're probably not going to do well at it, but you can try. So sometimes our bodies also still have a sense of humor. Thank you. My time is running out. We've done 3 embodiment practices today for the highly sensitive person. The first was we really allowed ourselves to amplify pleasure. We did it in the felt sense of our felt emotion, but you can do this with anything. If you savor a cup of coffee, or you savor the scent of freshly baked cookies, or whatever, vinyl, who knew? You can really enjoy by amplifying this, so that when you are in a situation where your senses feel heightened, you can recall that somatic memory of pleasure to balance it out. It doesn't always diminish, but it will balance it in more ways than one. The second practice that we did today was we allowed our body to fully feel the sensations of 5 main emotions, and you can do many more and create your energy signatures for those on your own time, for the more subtle energies or emotions. And now you know where that lives in your body. So when you're feeling a myriad of feelings, often you just need to feel the sensations of, okay, I got a little worried, I got a little anxious, I got a little anticipation, whatever, where does it live? And also that helps empaths distinguish between their energy signature of their specific emotion of anticipation and the collective anticipation or anxiety, especially for 2020. What is your brand of anxiety? What is your flavor of worry? And how does it compare to the collective? And can you then distance yourself from the collectives as an empath? And you can. It really does take a lot of practice, but this is the first step. And the third practice we just finished was trusting your body's yes and no. And it will come in handy in so many ways, because you'll have to ask your body so many questions in your life, and it'll never lie. What a gift. It will always tell you what to do. By the way, I'm not meant to eat that leftover salmon in the refrigerator. Probably gone bad. Bobby told me that one. And so trusting your body's yes or no, but also recognizing when you're in a situation. I used to leave Hong Kong Central Island every day at lunchtime feeling insecure, anxious, not enough. And I had to ask myself, is this mine? My body would say, no, it's not yours. And then I could leave it in Hong Kong Central and not bring it home with me because it wasn't mine. So allowing that trust of your body's yes and no. Thank you for joining me. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me in email or social media. My email address is Katie, Katie, at growthquests.com. And you can follow me on Instagram at Dr. Katie, Katie, GrowthQuests, at Dr. Katie GrowthQuests. It was absolutely my pleasure being here today. Thank you for helping yourself embrace your highly sensitive body. Thank you and take care.